What's up, everyone? Saturday, March 4th. We are in March. Finally, conference play is wrapping up. We had some fun mid-major slates yesterday with Arch Madness going on. A couple of late Mountain West games. Gav, how was yesterday for you, and how was your week? I know you had a couple of top finishes earlier in the week.
Yeah, it was a decent week. Whenever you get plays like Rodriguez and Della to hit, it's been a pretty decent week. But yeah, this is we only got like 90 something total games today, so no more mega Saturdays. Time to really hone in here down the back stretch.
Yeah, we got this Saturday, and then the big conference tournaments start up Tuesday, I think. So it's going to come fast and furious. You and I will be in Vegas next weekend, sweating out the games, getting some bets in. So no show for us next Saturday. If you're a Run Pure member, I'll have content every day. Kurt's going to be on the sticks for the main playbooks Thursday through Sunday. So just a heads up there. If you want to become a member, use code Boynton15, gets you 15% off your first month, includes SaberSim, and gets you access to all the sports that are going on. There's a huge UFC card tonight, PGA every week, NBA's rolling along, hockey. We got baseball coming in like 3.5 weeks. So hop on board with us. It's going to be a fun ride through March. I feel like we're pretty dialed in here, Gav, going into the tournaments. Things are kind of shaking out, and we can start with the first game. We saw Bama wrap up the SEC in their last game. They are on the road at Texas A&M. Ken Palm's got Bama third, A&M 23rd. He's got this line Bama 77-74, so pretty high total here. What are your first thoughts here with Bama going on the road after clinching the conference?
Yeah, second highest total of the slate. Did it in heroic fashion, right? They were down 17 with 9.5 minutes left, and obviously won it in overtime. But Bama 3 straight ATS losses after they started 11-3 in conference, and Texas A&M is the second best ATS team in the entire nation this year, 20-10, half game behind Pitt. So like last year, this game played to 74 possessions, but Texas A&M has also played 6 straight games under 66 possessions. So kind of actually A&M's been slowing it down a little bit more than we think about A&M teams in the past. But like one thing A&M highly relies on the offensive end is getting to the free throw line. And Bama's had a little bit of an issue like with that. They're 230th in defensive free throw rate on the year. But since February 1st, which is like a 9-game sample, they're 315th in defensive free throw rate. So Texas A&M third best in the nation. Bama's going to be on their P's and Q's for defense and not just putting Wade Taylor on the line 17 times like you can. Spots obviously all A&M. It's going to be interesting because like A&M was the team. This potentially could have been for the SEC crown, as crazy as it sounds. But like A&M also forces turnovers pretty well. 47th best rate in the country, and Bama's 232nd in allowing them. They can kick it away. That's definitely their path. Spot says A&M, but just kind of like the talent of Bama to win out. I think they've been kind of not sleepwalking, but just this back half of the stretch, they just haven't been as crisp. But with Quinterly reemerging, giving that offense a little more juice, I think, than they had most of the year.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I bet Bama last night when they got up to +2, just taking two points. A team that I just think there's a big discrepancy in talent between these two teams, obviously. And like you said, Quinn getting back in gear, that was the key to the slate on, I believe it was Wednesday, Tuesday or Wednesday. Yeah. He's underpriced here. Let's go to the DFS side, Gav. Let's start with him. Do you think that you can get away from Quinn? He's probably going to come off the bench again just because that's what's been working. But 28 and 36 minutes last 2 games. If not, you got Jaden Bradley sitting there for 1,000 less, who I don't think as many people are going to click on. Still starting. Had that one hiccup against Arkansas, but they're a tough defense. I think he's good for like low to mid 20s minutes here at 3.6. What are your thoughts on those two guys, and then Brandon Miller up top?
Yeah, I think you probably want Quinterly or Jaden Bradley. I think in every lineup, like that's probably a role I would do if I wasn't training the 150. But Yeah, it's like how I mean, remember when he came back early in the year, dude, and we were like, "Holy shit!" Like he's already back from a torn ACL, and I wonder how much of it is like him just potentially finally gaining confidence that that knee is going to hold up and do what he wants it to do. Because he was, big time, quick twitch, first step guy. So yeah, it's really hard to get away from Quinn in the spot. But if you do it in lieu of going to Bradley, I don't really mind it that much because I still think that their minutes are going to look a lot more even, like through the rest of the year, where it's not going to be one of them dominating the minute share. But yeah, you also get an $1,100 price discount. That being said, there's also a ton of value on the slate, so we're not starved for it like we were last Saturday.
Yeah, that's the theme of this slate is a ton of value, lots of really good options. We're not playing any Rodriguez and Dellas on this slate, Gav. I think either guy's fine. Eileen Quinn. I just kind of feel like he's going to lean on him more and more as these games get more and more important. Brandon Miller, I think, is a good play too at 9-4. We've seen him just shoot the shit out of the ball down the stretch. The peripherals haven't been great, but I don't think that the peripherals evaporating is something that's sticky. I think that those can tick back up. And if he does, the games that he smashes are when Bama gets pushed. So, they are a 2-point dog on the road with a 150 something total.
Against a team that's going to force you to shoot a ton of threes.
Yeah, I think this is a spot for Brandon Miller's ceiling game. Because like when he sees his floor is when they win by 20 plus, and I just don't see that happening here on the road. Obviously, it could happen, but less of a chance. Less risk of them just shit kicking a team like A&M. What are your thoughts there? And then is there anyone on the A&M side that interests you? We saw Andre Gordon start for Dexter Dennis last game. He's at Stone Min 3K.
Yeah, Miller's a great play. I just think with a 3-point potential, like this could be a 8 to 10, 3-point attempt game with the way that A&M packs in their D. Yeah, it's like Miller's rarely going to kill you. Like he's pretty much always gotten to 30 fantasy points, which is between 3 and 4x. Like you're not buried with that performance. Surely you want a little more than that from 9.4K, but definitely in the mix for spend up forwards. And then on the A&M side, like, do we got to look at Wade Taylor at 8.6K, dude? I mean, he's got 45 free throws in his last 4 games. Like just free points getting to the line. It's incredible.
I watched their last 2 games. He gets fouled every time he doesn't make a basket. It's actually pretty incredible. I worry a bit, like you've said, playing guys against Bama is pretty terrifying, especially because of how improved their interior defense is. So, like, I worry that if he doesn't get fouled a bunch in this game, can you really see a ceiling? Like, he's also not 7,500 anymore, Gav. He's up near 9. Like you're playing him over a Brandon Miller, you're playing him over like a Soriano or a Kolek, guys like that. So, kind of tough for me to get to Taylor, but I understand it. And then we see Boots Radford here at 7.3, just a mispriced the other day under 6K. That price is gone. Less interested in 7.3 after he took 22 shots or something last game.
20.
Any last thoughts on this one before we move on?
Yeah, if Boots wasn't such a terrible shooter, I'd say he's in play at 7.3, but it's hard to get there. He's going to need a ton of peripherals. And then what's his name? The guy who started for Dennis, Andre Gordon. Like if Dennis is out again, he's definitely in play.
Yeah, agreed. Not sure if you need to go that low, but I mean, if you're building multiple lineups, we got the $30 Q, so you can play up to 6 in there. I think Gordon's a good play in that. You can jam a bunch of studs. Let's move on. We got a Big Ten matchup here: Ohio State, Michigan State. No love lost there. Ohio State 57th at Ken Palm. Michigan State 27th. He's got it 73-67 Sparty. Hit us with some game notes here, Gav.
Yeah, remember this first matchup, 62-41. Michigan State beat them in Columbus, a 58 possession game. Ohio State was down 27-14 at half. They scored 14 points in the first half in this first matchup. Like Sparty off the sleepy Nebraska first half after, they played that ridiculous game against Iowa and lost the cover. Started out slow against Nebraska and then outscored them 54-29 in the second half and just absolutely torched them when they were trailing by 12 at half. A win puts Sparty in a 7-way tie for second, basically. And a loss has them tied for 8th and playing Rutgers in the Big Ten tourney to play Purdue. So, pretty big, much more implications on the line for Michigan State. An Ohio State team that's definitely shown some more life, though, like the last week or so, winning a couple games outright. But, two teams with just terrible shot selection, like 356 and 322nd, low rim and three rates. Differences, Michigan State's an elite shot-making team at 19th. Ohio State not as much at 39th. Lines down a point to 7. I actually kind of lean Michigan State a little bit in the spot, but, it's like how much more gas do they have to just keep ripping off, these heroic offensive performances? I think this one could get kind of ugly.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the Sparty side if I take it. I think this is one that I would live, though, Gav. Like if Ohio State gets out hot, I trust Michigan State to win this game at home. Kind of wish that they had dropped one earlier in the week. We do have that season-long conference win. We have under 11.5, I think. Or no, under 11 on the dot. Yeah. So I think we're safe there because they did drop that OT Iowa game. Never mind. So I think we did get that home. But yeah, I like the spot here for Sparty for the reasons that you outlined. I think there's a bunch of guys in play in this game. I'm not sure if there's anyone that's like a must play, but the pricing on both sides is decent, especially for the ancillary guys. Does anyone stand out to you right off the jump? We saw Okpara not play that much two games ago, and then last game was really needed for big minutes against Maryland, and gets a pretty soft Michigan State interior here. But I do worry a bit about the road whistle. He was the guy that stood out to me first. What about you?
Yeah, it's like, maybe take a stab at an Okpara at an. I don't think I really want to pay up in this game. Like I said, it could get kind of ugly, and it definitely was in the first game. 58 possession game is just like really disgusting when we have a total, I think, that's pushed over 160 now with, St. John's Marquette versus playing this game. So it's like you definitely go look at the budget. I think it's like the first guy that stuck out to me is one of these, Ohio State budget guys, whether it's Okpara, whether it's Ice, whether it's Sean McNeil. Like preferably, Okpara is going to have the highest ceiling of those guys, but he's also going to have the lowest floor. Like, he's a pretty bad matchup for Hauser if he has to travel at the 5 versus, he matches up much better against like a Sissoko or a Jackson Kohler or something like that, where he can probably remain in the game a little bit more. But yeah, road whistle definitely worries you there. And then, Jaden Akins, I think, could be worth consideration. Like, he's got some pretty high shot volume games, and boy, he can get hot. But, he's 11 of his last 18 from 3. That's pretty hot. Wouldn't expect that to continue, so I probably won't be playing him much at all here.
Yeah, I think it's tougher to get to the Sparty guys despite us liking them at home, right? Just because of the prices. We saw Hogard and Walker under 7K just last slate, and now they're 8 and 7.6. So I think I'll go elsewhere with Spence. I agree there. Sensabaugh on the other side at 8. It's just like it's tough to click him just knowing that he's going to play 26 or 28 minutes.
Yeah.
He has an easy matchup with Joey Hauser, but he's just got to be so efficient to crush that price. Like I don't doubt that he can get close or get to 4x, but I just don't see him having like a 40-point ceiling just in the minutes that he has, unless he makes every shot that he takes. So I do like Okpara. A bit worried about the whistle, and I think I'm off the Michigan State guys. I don't mind a Sean McNeil or an Ice. Any last thoughts on this game before we move on?
No.
All right, Seton Hall, Providence. Seton Hall, 79th, Providence, 31st to Ken Palm. He's got this Providence 74-66. I think the betting lines are right in jive with Ken Palm. I fucked up earlier in the week. I had conviction on Femi Odekale. Clicked him out of my lineup last second. He blows up the slate. Now he's up from 5,400 to 7,100 here, Gav. Tough price to play on the road against Providence at the Dunk. We've seen Jameer Harris, 28, 30, and 32 minutes last 3 games, but he just doesn't do that much. But, another guy to toss into the value bucket, I think. Thoughts on those 2 guys, the game overall? Not a great game for DFS with this pricing, I think. Providence has been so hot that their studs are just, I think, priced too close to guys with just massive ceilings.
Yeah, Providence, off their first loss at the Dunk this year. Expect a pretty good effort from them. They just, were behind the 8 ball the entire way last game. These teams last played December 17th at Seton Hall. It was actually a 72 possession game. That's a little bit faster than I would think, but like both these teams are happy to play in transition. Seton Hall's off the 3 straight losses though, at UConn and then versus Xavier and versus Nova, and they're pretty stuck into like the 7th place in the Big East tourney, whether they so, and in regards to the fact that they're win or bust to get into the national tourney. Ken Palm projects this for 67 possessions. I still think it can go a little bit faster than that. The question is, what kind of efficiency do you get? Like I said about the transition, like Seton Hall allows the 24th highest percentage of shots in transition on defense, and Providence allows the 78th highest. So both these teams are happy to play a little bit more of an up and down affair. I actually might bet this over. It was 71-67 in the first matchup. So basically like a bucket shy where the line is right now. I think it has some sneaky over potential. Problem is DFS side, you got to take into consideration the prices. Kadari could still play, which would just probably kill everybody, on the Seton Hall side. So then it would be Providence or pass.
Yeah, I think it's the same for me, and I didn't bet this game either. I do like the Providence side, but just not at 8. Probably like a live bet thing for me. Maybe if Kadari's in, that line drops, and then you can get the Providence side. But yeah, I think just at these prices, it's tough to get to any plays on either side, really. Let's go to Providence. The only guy I really wrote down was Noah Locke at 4.6, but I never like to click him, just being a corner stand or 3-point shooter, pretty volatile guy, but he is playing 30 plus minutes lately. Thoughts on the Providence guys?
Yeah, like Locke's fine, but like his rates, man, I'd almost rather take like a Quinterly. Even if he told me Quinterly gets like 6 or 7 less minutes, I'd still probably take Quinterly over Locke, just with the difference in involvement they have in their team's offense. Ed Croswell in the middle of his just career heater right now. He was actually first in the nation in offensive rebounding his freshman year at LaSalle, 3rd his sophomore year. So like, he's kind of finally coming around to rebounding a little more. He got the blocks, which he usually doesn't get. Other than that, man, like, Bynum's priced to the moon. Yeah, other than that, I'm probably staying away. Like, this is not really an ideal matchup for Hopkins. Seton Hall's got some pretty athletic length at the wing. So that being said, he's going to be pretty low owned, and he's got 40, 50 point upside, especially if I think the game can kind of get up and down a little bit. So yeah, I think that's where I'm at play wise on the Providence side.
Cool. Let's move on. We got Iowa State at Baylor. Iowa State 28th to Ken Palm. Baylor 13th. He's got this Baylor 72-66. So total under 140 here. Overall thoughts on the game, Gav? We've got some injuries to monitor on the Baylor side. Key George and Langston Love, both game time calls. Langston Love had that cornea scratch like right off the jump in their game earlier this week. Everyone had him. He played like 3 minutes. Keontae George missed that game on Monday. I actually don't really have a lean on if they're playing or not. What do you think about this game overall, and thoughts on those 2 guys?
Yeah, I got no idea if they're playing. It's just going to be touch and go. Like, we're going to have to see. But these teams played earlier in the year, 77-62 Baylor. Like, there was also no Cryer and no Jazz Kunk. Now, this time we're not going to have Caleb Grill for Iowa State because he got dismissed. Iowa State is just kind of in free fall the last like week or two, and I think Otzelberger was just like dealing with his bullshit. And he's like, if we're going to lose with him, then fuck it. I'd rather like lose without him. Just booted him off the team. Like it sounded like his head got really big after he had that 30-point game. It was against KU or something like that. But regardless, Yeah, last game, Baylor had 19 turnovers. Iowa State shot 10 of 23 from three in Ames. Sorry, I said Baylor won. Iowa State won in Ames. But so this is the rematch. But like the Baylor offense is tailor made for like the no middle of Iowa State and all these Big 12 defenses, like the way they can shoot from the perimeter. Obviously, Key George being out hurts that. But Iowa State 351st away from home metric. Yeah, not the greatest team on the road, and they're in free fall. Like I said, Iowa State is 9 of their last 46 from three in their last two road games, 19%. So yeah, they're going to allow a ton of catch and shoot opportunities at the three, and it pretty much comes down to if Baylor's knocking them down. Game played last time to 68 possessions, so not the greatest total. I took a small stab at the over. I think we get a little bit of efficiency uptick, especially on the Baylor side. So yeah, I think it's Baylor pass for me on the side.
Yeah, same. The injury news here is just so big. There's a couple guys in play. I think, we just look at the cheaper guys in a game environment like this, Gav. We got Robert Jones on the Iowa State side, back-to-back games over 20 minutes. Baylor's weakness is in their front court for sure. So I think he's interesting at 3-3. And then on the Baylor side, depending on the injury news, Langston Love and Key George, I think Dale Bonner is interesting at 3-5. Back-to-back games over 20 fantasy points. I wouldn't really expect something like that, but his peripherals give him a nice floor there at 3-5. So if the Baylor guys are out, I do have some interest in Dale Bonner. What about the DFS side for you? Those two guys, we got Lipsy and Holmes sitting in this, the mid sixes, but I feel like they've just been there for the last 2 months.
Yeah, on the Iowa. If I'm playing this game, I'm using one of the budget guys, so it's Bonner's mainline consideration if both Love and George are out, and then Trey King and Robert Jones, right? Kind of interesting. Without Grill, the thing Ken Palm has Trey King as the next four behind Jazz Kunk, so. Maybe he has a little bit more of a path to added minutes versus Robert Jones is only at the 5 as a spell for Oshuni. So I think everybody's going to go to click Robert Jones. I actually kind of think Trey King's a little bit more interesting though. Yeah, that's definitely it for the Iowa State side. There's no way I'm paying $6K plus for one of these guys on the road.
Yeah, same. Let's move on here to a game is interestingly on the slate, but DFS friendly. Georgia at South Carolina. Georgia 142nd at Ken Palm. South Carolina 219th. But DK's got to have 12 games on these Saturday main slates, Gav. So here it is. Ken Palm's got a Georgia 70-69, so expected close game, 140 total. Give me some game notes here. Two shitty teams.
Yeah, I have one game note. Chico Carter done for the year after a knee procedure, so play Jacoby Wright. Just two shitbag teams, right? We don't need to get into the nitty gritty and the X's and O's and the spots. These teams are in shit spots because they're shit teams. So we can go straight to the DFS side.
Yeah, so the DFS side is interesting. We got guys priced down all over the place. Georgia, we saw Mardrez McBride missed the last game. I think it was an illness, though. That was Tuesday. It fucked with my head. I played Karia Okendo, who, in hindsight, he played 38 minutes, Gav. And, for him to only get 20 DK on 16 shots, I feel like I ran a little bit bad there. Went 0 of 7 from 3 with no other stats. But since it was an illness on Tuesday, I kind of think McBride is back here. Thoughts on his impact with Georgia and guys on that side? We see Terry Roberts at 7K. He fouled like a maniac on Tuesday, which is weird. He's fouled since he's come back from that injury gap. I think he's fouled in 75% of their games. I don't expect that to continue, but there's only so many times you can keep clicking a fucking guy and have him pick up 2 fouls in the first 5 minutes at 7K. What do you think?
Yeah, it just looks like it's a different role too, offense wise, than what it was pre was it concussion for Roberts or something like that. But whatever he missed with for a week plus, Okendo's fine, but if you would have told me the guy was going to get 16 shots and play 38 minutes, I would have said, yeah, like it's the easiest play of the slate. But when you're so disinterested in doing anything else other than just shooting the basketball, as indicated by his stat line the last 2 games, or I don't know, pretty much every game this year, he's just like, scoring dependent. He can still get there, price wise at 4-4. But if McBride comes back, that brings in more floor to him. Because we'll see his minutes yo-yo a little bit with Mike White and just how he's going to play these shitty guards. Just roll them all out there and hope that one of them gets hot enough to carry. Like, in the last couple of games, it's been Justin Hill. Like, do you look over there? It's kind of a little bit pricey for my liking, but still definitely manageable to get to. Yeah, a couple enterprise guys, but it's like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I think there's more risk than people realize in these Georgia guards, Hill and Okendo. And like even Abdur Rahim is projecting well. I think McBride coming back eats into those guys enough that they make them just flimsy plays. But I mean, if you're playing a bunch of lineups, I don't mind playing an Okendo, a Roberts, guys like that, just because the spot, like these teams are so bad defensively that I think it's fine. You're also, Gavin, you're not getting a pace up playing at South Carolina. They're 323rd in pace. So let's jump to the other side. This is where I think the best plays from this game are. Jacoby Wright, like you mentioned, 3,700. He's played 32 plus minutes in 7 straight games, Gav. The production's been kind of mild, but they've had some tough matchups in the last few weeks where I think he's played well. Like if you watch him, I think he's played well. It's just, it's tough to have ceiling games against, the Tennessees, the Arkansas, the A&Ms of the world. So I really like him at 3.7. And then I want your thoughts on Gigi Jackson. Had the, got benched earlier this month, and I think he's responded really well since then. Had the predictable dud against Tennessee. But besides that, the shot rate's high. The minutes are solid. What do you think about him here?
Yeah, I wish the rebounding rate was just a little bit higher with him, right? I think he's a good play. And keep in mind, like, he's going to be out of there for the draft. South Carolina's got this game and their SEC conference game. He's got basically 2 more games to throw tape on for the scouts. So it's like, is that the reason why he's taken 17, 20, 12, and 12 shots the last 4 games? I don't know. Maybe there's something to that. But, yeah, I think he's a good play. I don't think he's a priority play on this slate because, like, it's 7-7. If he doesn't put up 20 real points, you almost need, like, a double-double, which he's done, like, what, once, twice this year. So, yeah, I think he's fine. I don't have a problem playing him. I don't know if I'll be getting him. I'll probably be a little bit more stars and scrubsy and just go above Gigi, given how much value is on the slate. But I get why people play him.
Yeah, I do like him here. I think he's going to chuck. It's an easy matchup. We did have a question from the chat that I want to hit on real quick. Is Jameer Harris only in play if Richmond is out? Yeah, if Kadari
absolutely
comes back.
He's barely in play with Richmond out.
Yeah. Let's move off that game to a really good real-life game here. Kentucky at Arkansas, Gav. Kentucky 22nd at Ken Palm, Arkansas 15th. I took a piece of Arkansas minus 4.5, I believe. We have the total at 141.5. What do you think overall about this game here? We got huge, massive news. Cason Wallace, game time call. What do you think?
Yeah, spots all Arkansas, right? They're off 2 straight losses at Bama, at Tennessee. Now back home where they're 5-3 ATS in conference versus 2-7 mark on the road. And Kentucky's off that, puzzling loss at Rupp versus a Liam Robbins-less Vandy. He went out, 3 minutes into the game, dude, and didn't return. They didn't have Cason. They didn't have Cason for the second half. Now, keep in mind, Kentucky out-rebounded Vandy 48-35 in that game. Kentucky shot 35 free throws to Vandy's 13, and they still lost.
And lost the game.
Yeah, it was a 13-point analytical win for Kentucky on shot quality for what it's worth, but it's just, man, that's a bad sign. If you can't beat Vandy in your own yard with those disparities, it's tough. Arkansas already won 88-73 at Rupp. no Nick Smith that time either. Now they get him back at home. And that was a game in where Kaysen went for 24, 3, 5, and 5. Like, whew. Arkansas just shredded Kentucky to bits, 28 for 42, a 269 possession game. The issue I got here is, no Severe, and if there's no Kaysen, the way that Arkansas is going to ice ball screens, man, Kentucky's going to have big problems at the point of attack. So, you're going to have to go with some sort of kind of weird dribble motion where you're going to be shooting a ton of threes with Frederick and Reeves. But Arkansas's got great individual wing length and defense. So, yeah, I think spots all Arkansas. Took the 4.5 myself. We can look at DFS now.
Yeah, love the 4.5. I mean, even if Kaysen plays, probably not going to be 100%. And just, I don't know, it's a tough matchup. Arkansas is just so good defensively. Like you said, they just got athletes at every position. Really tough in the backcourt, especially defensively. But if Kaysen Wallace is out, how should we play the Kentucky side? We got CJ Fredrickson at 3-3. I think he'll play a ton of minutes. If he's out, we probably see Antonio Reeves try to play point guard. His issue the whole season is that he's been shot only. So if him, since we have Severe and possibly Wallace out, if both are out, if Reeves runs point at 6K, if you introduce some assist upside to, he could take 20 shots in this game if Kaysen Wallace is out, right? So I think he's super interesting, especially for, the Q. And then Oscar had that lull in the middle of the conference play when other guys were kind of taking the reins. But if Kaysen is out here, they just kind of have to lean on Oscar. Back-to-back 50 balls for him. I think that he's a good play at 10-1. It's a tough road spot, though. You could talk to that more than I could about, Arkansas's interior defense. What do you think about Kentucky? Let's assume Wallace is out for these purposes, because I think if Wallace plays, I'm off guys like Frederick and Reeves. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to play Reeves regardless. I would rather just play Frederick if Wallace is out. Just pray for 26, 28 minutes. And he's got a little more peripheral upside, I think, than Reeves. He's been hampered most of the year. They're going to need him. But it's right. It's a really tough spot. If you're going to target Arkansas in one area, they are a pretty good elite rim defense, that they force teams into a lot of mid-range and ISO opportunities, which, like Kaysen and Toppin, those guys are happy to play in. If Kaysen's out, it's probably Frederick. I don't think it's a Thiero spot or anything like that. I don't think he sees 20 plus minutes. So I think it goes mostly to Frederick, and then after that, it's do you want Oscar or not? Because I'm not paying 8K for Toppin when Oscar's 10K.
No.
Even though Toppin's been great and could get a lot of shots with Kaysen out. He's also had 10 plus rebounds in 3 straight games, which I don't think is going to sustain, but good. I think that's how I would play Kentucky, is pretty much Oscar and or Frederick if Kaysen's out.
Yeah, just not the best spot for Oscar here. You're just kind of jamming the, if Wallace is out, he has upside for a lot more shot equity, and he just seems to be dialed in right now, and might just have to put the team on his back. So we do have a ton of value here, Gav, where you can afford him if you want to play him. So I think that's the main point. Let's go to Arkansas. We see Anthony Black under 7K for the first time in about a month. Back to where he probably should be with Nick Smith in the fold, taking 20 shots a game. Smith coming off the, I'm going to say now, predictable dud against Tennessee, even though I swapped to him last minute. That was just an egregious mistake by me. But he's at 6'5" at home here. Good bounce back spot for him. He was decently owned on Tuesday, so I think people might be gun shy to go back to him here. And then Devo back under 6K. And the minutes, haven't really moved, even though we see Nick Smith back. I'm trying to pull it up right now. Devo, 39 and 39 minutes last 2. So thoughts on the guard trio on the Arkansas side? I don't think I'm going to get to any of the forwards on this slate.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's either – I'm probably not going to play Black with Smith back. not until he's at least cheaper than Nick Smith. Like, I'd rather just, I think, play Smith and try to get the 15 plus shots. But like, Devo's been chucking last couple mid fives, super attainable price, pretty decent team total. Like, you just know that the bottom can kind of fall out a little bit with the shot volume in any given game. But he's been pretty consistent, like 10 plus, field goal attempts most of the year, albeit without Nick Smith. But he can get there, mostly on peripherals too, and then just chip in like if it's 8 to 10 points or something like that, and still probably make value in this spot.
Yeah, I kind of like Devo as a last man in type. He's a pretty confident last man in. So, I'm not starting my build with him, but I wouldn't be mad if he ended up in my lineup. Is that kind of where you are?
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, cool. Let's move on. Another SEC matchup: Tennessee at Auburn. Tennessee's still up at 4th at KenPom. Auburn 30th. Had the massive news for Tennessee. Sakai Ziegler out for the year with the ACL. What do you think the impacts of that are to this Tennessee team, Gav? Obviously huge. Tyreek Key also banged up, so very thin in the backcourt is Tennessee going on the road to Auburn, a team that is coming off a couple losses at Kentucky, at Bama. I can't really blame them for those two. But, a team that's looking for positioning in the tournament. If they win this game, they'll be 10-8 in the SEC. So I think this is a pretty big game for Auburn at home. I took some +2 last night. I think that line might have even flipped. What do you think about this game and the injury to Ziegler and the impact of that on Tennessee?
Yeah, it'll move Vescovi onto the ball. I think that loss in particular will accentuate itself a little bit more in this matchup. The way that Auburn gets out in passing lanes and tries to extend pressure, especially on the point guard position. So, you also remember this was the rematch of the 89 total point game in 40 minutes of basketball. 0.64 and 0.69 points per possession for both teams. Shot 5 of 48 from 3 combined. Like, yeah, this could be another ugly one. Like, I mean, you have Tennessee is 279th in 3-point percentage, and now you're losing another 30 plus 3-point per shooter. You also have 2 of the 3 best 3-point defenses here. So it's like this could be just kind of another rock fight. Auburn at home, you think they might try to push pace a little bit more, but I think Key is expected back from what I saw, and
Okay.
I almost think that he's like a fucking net negative on that team, dude, because that team is so good defensively. Like, he doesn't bring enough offensively to the point where you can just give up his poor defense. And every site that I look at, dude, has Julian Phillips as like the best defender in the country. Whether Evan Mia, Hoop Explorer, shot quality, it doesn't matter. Like, the guy's just an elite defender. Josiah Jordan James was the highest defensive BPR on Evan Mia last year to return to college basketball. Like, I almost think you just fucking boot Tyreek Key out of the rotation, but he'll probably play him. You also have Cardwell out for Auburn too on the other side, so that's the other injury here.
Yeah, I think if I'm getting this game, it's the cheaper guys, right? Like a KD Johnson for 4.5, a Meshack's at 4.2 for Tennessee. I think he's an interesting pivot off of a Quinn or some of the more popular value plays. Like, I think he's going to play 25 to 30 minutes. I really like his game. He just looks good out there. And the price has come down a bit, even though Ziegler's out. If Key is out, that obviously helps Meshack. But like you said, we saw Phillips come back. We saw JJJ come back. So even though they lost Ziegler, you're adding like 55 minutes of guys who are going to play in and taking out 30, right? So it's still a bit muddled with their rotation as far as guys having like ceiling minutes spots. Do you have any interest in like a JJJ here? If he plays 30 plus at 6'3", I think that's a decent price for him. And then thoughts on Meshack or anyone on the Auburn side before we move on?
Yeah, I think Meshack's in the pool for budget guards. There's fucking 10 of them that you can play on the slate, and he's definitely in the mix. I think JJJ is more of large field or Q type lineup, you know, because the minutes are just kind of suspect, even without, Ncaa. Like you got to play Meshack, you got to play Phillips. Like, can he push, 34, 35 minutes? If you told me he plays 34, 35, I'd probably be more interested, but I just don't know if he has that kind of minute ceiling in this spot.
Yeah, not a main team guy for me, but I think a guy in consideration, especially if you're playing that $30 Q, because he does have big time upside at that price. All right, let's move on. We got the lotion game coming up here, Gav, and we got a question from the chat that kind of ties into it. So we'll start with this: how many is too many from Marquette St. John's? That's a great question. I think what are we up to? 162 for this total. Marquette up to 12th at Ken Palm, St. John's 90th. He's got at Marquette 87-73. Game notes here. Obviously the highest total on the slate. Can St. John's keep it close enough? What do you think?
It's a good question, right? Marquette's already wrapped up the Big East. The first time this game played, they went to 76 possessions. That's also the highest possession game Marquette has had since November 17th. Like when they were playing just the blind schools, in non-con at the beginning of the year. St. John's shot 47% from three in that game, which they almost never do. And there was something like 52 free throws or whatever. But yeah, the question really comes down to, like, what does Shaka do with the Marquette rotation, right? Like, I think there's real concern and worry that, do you really need to play Kolek 36 minutes, Cam Jones 37 minutes, Oso Ighodaro 36, 37 minutes? Like, these guys have been playing all that all year. They already got the conference wrapped up. Now they don't play for another 5 full days, with the first round bye in the Big East tourney. But and I was looking back, dude, like on the 2013 VCU teams of Shaka, like to see, did he ever win the A10 and had a similar spot like this? He never won the A10 regular season. He obviously won the tourney to make the national tourney a couple times, but we have no sample of like Shaka in this spot, already wrapped up a conference title. Like, it's going to be a little bit funky with Marquette. I just think it brings way more variance into, what on paper is like, almost 10 points better team total than anybody on the slate. But it also has, I think, a little bit more inherent variance.
Yeah. I guess the argument on the other side there, Gav, is, Kolek, Oso, Cam Jones, if they play 32 minutes and, they're getting pulled because they've already scored 90 points and they're winning, probably because those three, are smashing.
I'm saying they don't, even if the game is close, like what's Marquette's incentive to win this game? Nothing, zero. Like, it does them no good other than, like, it's going to hurt their, whatever seeding. Are they going to drop a full seed line losing at home to St. John's? Like, maybe.
I don't know.
It's there.
I don't really question the motivation of a top 15 team in March. I get it, but it's just such a good spot. If you play it that way and you fade Marquette and you're wrong, just open up the afternoon slate.
Yep.
Because the ceilings for these guys, if the game is reasonably close, Marquette's going to score 90 plus. The prices aren't cheap, but they're deserved, right? Tyler Kolek might be. I think I'd vote for him for Big East Player of the Year.
Dude, he's the Big East Player of the Year. He's the best player on the best team in the Big East. That's the Big East Player of the Year.
I was watching FS1 yesterday, and they said that Sonogo's a lock. I was like, I don't think Sonogo's in the top 3.
He might not even be the best big on his team.
Yeah, I think for me it's Kolek, and I have a ton of interest here. He absolutely pissed on St. John's when they played him last time. I'll let you kind of talk about the game notes here while I pull up what he did last time against St. John's.
No, he didn't have a great one against St. John's. It was in Carnesecca Arena, I remember. And like St. John's is not a great matchup for point guards. One, because you have Posh Alexander in your shorts all game. And just with the press, like a lot of times they force the ball out of your hands, like to guys down the court to beat the press. But yeah, I mean, like Kolek's been It was the
I was
DePaul
thinking
game,
about
but
the DePaul game. My
yeah,
bad.
but like I mean, dude, if Kolek is going to take 10 plus shots, he's going to hit value almost every single slate. Even at 9K, he'll 4x, with 10 plus shots. Like the peripherals are just so safe in there. St. John's will kick the ball away. He's got some steal upside. It's like if I was doing cash, like I think Kolek and Brandon Miller are the safest guys to 4x for the spend ups. Like I would just probably start with them. But yeah, it's great. Obviously, a great spot for Marquette. I'm not going to say I'm fading them completely, but like Cam Jones 7.9K, that's starting to really get up there. Same with Oso. It's probably just like Kolek or going all the way down to old stinky Stevie Mitchell.
Yeah, we got Stevie Mitchell there at 3.8, playing low 20s in a game like this. Anyone playing over 20 minutes is in play, right? And especially a guy for under 4K. I think and like you said, like if this game gets out of hand, I think he's got upside for a couple extra minutes as they get the more ancillary pieces involved in what could be a blowout. So I think he's in play. I like Kolek a ton at 9-1. The only issue, right, is like Kolek versus a guy that we'll talk about, Marquise Noel, Brandon Miller, and a guy on the other side, Soriano at 8-7, been super consistent the whole season, man. Just like a walking double-double. Where you get Marquette is definitely inside. I think Soriano's a really interesting play here. I like him a lot. When they played at home, Soriano had a big game, 22-13, and he actually fouled out pretty early in that. Not early, but could have played a couple extra minutes in that game. I think there's upside for like 34 minutes here for Soriano, and I think he has a double-double with some pretty good upside just because of the game environment. Thoughts on him, and then anyone else on the St. John's side that's in play for you?
Yeah, he's a great play. Him and Kolek are main team viable for sure. In terms of other St. John's, like, man, I'm just, if you want to throw in some AJ Storr in large field, I love him. Other than that, dude, you want to play 5K curb on this slate with all the value we have? Like, just not for me in this time. Out on 6.4K dog with all the guards back, we still could get Pinzone back. Like he's just been suspended. Like what if he randomly plays? It just eats into those guys even more. So it's probably Kolek Soriano or going all the way down to Stevie Mitchell for me in this game.
Yeah, I don't mind like an AJ Storr as a bring back if you play to Marquette. I think throughout all the bullshit with St. John's, what Anderson has realized is that Storr is kind of the future there. So he's just kind of letting him play. I think he sees 30 plus minutes here. And it's an attachment to just such a good game. So any last thoughts here before we move on? We got 4 more games left. We're already at 10:50.
Nope.
All right. Louisville, Virginia, another game that I'm super stoked that's on the slate. Virginia, 19-point favorites. Game total of 128. So Louisville's a cross-off. They've been a cross-off all season except for a couple of spots where we played some L. Ellis. Thoughts on this game? Louisville actually, if I remember correctly, played Virginia really close at home at the Yum Center, but this one is in Charlottesville.
Yeah. Speaking of that run, that was one of the 5 games that Virginia's played since the Filipowski missed call. Virginia is 161 in Bart Torvik date filter in the 5 games since then. 282nd adjusted offensive efficiency, 348th in effective field goal percentage. The offense has just been terrible. Like, and so there's no way I'm laying 17, 18 points. That being said, UVA can still get a share of the ACC title with a win because Pitt just shit all over themselves against Notre Dame. But yeah, Virginia's been much better at home. In conference ATS 6-3. So yeah, that being said, just cross this game off and just move it on along.
Yeah. Don't think I'm going to get it to anyone in DFS. We saw Ryan Dunn play 17 minutes last game, but I think, like you said, coach knows that they're kind of struggling for offense. I think he's kind of grasping at straws with the ancillary pieces. So I think that's pretty flimsy. And then the core four, Beekman, Gardner, Clark, Franklin, I think they're kind of priced where they should be. Maybe even a little overpriced for guys like Beekman and Gardner, who like Beekman just ran hot on steals. I think Gardner's running hot on minutes. I think that the minutes could even back out with Vanderplas for him. Any quick thoughts there before we move on?
Yeah, I think the only main guy on Virginia that'd be in play for me would be like Armand Franklin. Some shares in large field, but other than that, I'm out.
Yeah, Franklin's kind of returned to the guy that we thought he was going to be, more of a spot up 3-point shooter. He had that run where he was getting like 8 and 10 rebounds a game around Christmas, but that has predictably gone away. Let's keep moving. We got a really good game here. Kansas State, West Virginia. Kansas State 18th at KenPom, West Virginia 19th. So even matchup here. This one's in Morgantown. He's got it. West Virginia 77-74. I see West Virginia laying 5 last time I looked. Thoughts on this game overall? And I think we have a ton of guys to consider for DFS.
Yeah, his first game was 82-76 in OT in Manhattan. This was the game, remember, where West Virginia went up 17-3, and K-State came all the way back and beat them. This was like right in the middle of – this is right at the start of K-State's like piss missile run where they got all the way up to like top 10, beat Baylor, beat Texas or whatever. So, much different environment now going to Morgantown when Kansas State is kind of, tailed off a little bit in the back half of the stretch, but they're also off 4 straight wins. That being said, Baylor was one of them. The other 3 were Iowa State, Oklahoma, who, along with Texas Tech and their opponent today, West Virginia, constitute the bottom 5 of the Big 12. So they really haven't played anybody during that stretch. So K-State also 8-1 ATS at home in conference versus 4-4 on the road. So we know how good the Octagon is, and they're away from it this time. Like, pretty sneaky good team total, or a pretty sneaky good game total. I think 3rd highest on the slate. So game's going to get up and down a little bit. Definitely got some pieces in play.
Yeah, I think an interesting decision here, Gav, is like between these 9K guys, Brandon Miller, Noel, Kolek. Do you have any thoughts on like how Noel compares to a Kolek on the slate? I think it's an interesting decision point. He torched West Virginia last time. I think he got the double-double with assists, as he's done a bunch this year. When he gets that double-double with assists are the games where he can just really put like a 50 on you here. The price is high, but it's deservedly high. Like he's playing 38 plus minutes, max minutes with a 70-something team total, and a 50% assist rate in the last 3 games. So thoughts on the spot for him here, and then if you can't afford him, do you like Key Johnson here? Also max minutes, 39 in 2 of their last 3 games, and the shot rate has gone up to 25%. My issue with Key, the rebounds have kind of evaporated on him. Like with Gassan coming back, they got him, Ayola, Masood. Like I just feel like enough rebounds are falling to other guys lately, and I'm not sure if that's sticky or if the rebounds pop back up and the shot rate stays at 25%, then obviously he's a smash play. Any read there?
Yeah, when he was threatening triple doubles early in the year, I think it's just kind of one of those stretches. I don't really have anything like concrete for it, but yeah, he's also only 1.1K cheaper than Noel. So it's not like you're getting a huge discount. It is $1,000, right. But like I said, plenty of money on this slate. So yeah, Noel's a great play. Key I think is pretty good. It's I kind of like him more in the 7Ks. He hasn't shown that huge triple double threatening ceiling in a while. So in play, but yeah, Gassan at 3.8. Is he going to get the minutes? It's not a great spot because West Virginia is pretty good defensively, guarding the rim. But K-State's all about the rim assault, whether it's, Noel getting downhill, which you definitely can against the pressure of West Virginia. You can also back cut this team to shreds, which K-State's the number 1 cut frequency team in the country. So should have some pretty good success doing that. Cam Carter, he's a little more of a defensive specialist. against teams with multi-guard offenses. So, he's in play, but yeah, it gets a little bit ugly after that.
Yeah, we just had news come through. Dexter Dennis is going to play, so that Axe, the Andre Gordon play that we talked about for A&M at 3K. Let's go to the West Virginia side here. I think a bunch of guys in play. We've seen Eric Stevenson just absolutely chuck lately. He's at 8.4. I'm not a guy who plays Eric Stevenson, but shot rate over 30% with a near 80 team total. At some point you have to bend the knee, right? Like he is going out in style in his 19th year in college. I think the interesting point here on the West Virginia side, Gav, basically both of the backup bigs are game time calls or going to be out here. So like Trey Mitchell could play like 37 minutes in this game if he doesn't foul. He's seen 35 plus in like all of their recent games where he hasn't fouled. They're thin in the front court. I think he's interesting at 7K. Not like a first guy in or anything, but like I think that Trey Mitchell has passed to a big game here, and I think he's going to be pretty low owned. And then I think Jimmy Bell, if both of those guys are out, is interesting at 3.5. Low shot rate, but 20 plus minutes in 2 of the last 3 games. And if those guys are out, they're either going to have to play him 20 plus or just play a super small lineup against K-State, which is kind of scary with the size that they have. Thoughts on West Virginia here? We have a huge team total and a bunch of guys that I think are in play, but not like spectacular plays.
Yeah, Jimmy Bell is pretty interesting. West Virginia, 21 offensive rebounds in their first game against Kansas State. Kansas State had 14, for what it's worth. There were 35 combined in that game. But, that being said, it can definitely be had on the inside. Jimmy Bell is probably my favorite budget play, but you have to get Okonkwo out too. Mo Wage's out for, indefinitely, so you don't have to worry about that. But if Okonkwo's out, yeah, Bell is definitely in the fold. Kind of, he's like I think a little bit higher floor Trey King, Robert Jones type. I think he's a little bit clearer path to minutes and a little bit better game environment and matchup defensively. So, yeah, I think
the only issue is that we have to wait for it, right? Like it's a later game in the slate.
True. I don't really play Joe Toussaint because I can't rely on the minutes like any game in, game out. And him and Stevenson are probably pretty anti-correlated too. Feels like it's hard to get both of them to go crazy, but yeah, Stevenson's got 4 straight 20-point games. Like if he's just going to shoot 17 times a game in the best game environment or one of the best game environments on the slate, you got to consider him. But yeah, I'm just going to keep letting Eric Stevenson beat me, I guess. Here's where we are. Keep in mind, this is going to be a huge scoring slate. So even like 35 from Stevenson may not quite cut it at that range.
Yeah, because he is 8.4. He's the same price as Key Johnson. He's the same price as Soriano, guys like that.
Javon Franklin has 6 straight 40-point fantasy games. He's at 100 more.
Did you have any thoughts on Trey Mitchell before we moved on? I thought he was interesting.
I use him more as a pivot when I'm down early. It's rarely a guy on a 12-game slate that I'm going to build around at 7K. But if you're down and you wanted to pivot to him, I could definitely see that.
Yeah, he's a volatile guy who has upside. Senior night for what I feels like their entire roster is seniors outside of a couple bench pieces. Yeah, they got Stevenson, Toussaint, Mitchell, Kedrian, Emmett Matthews, Jimmy Bell are all seniors. So they got like 7 or 8 of them. Let's move on. We got 2 games left. Georgia Tech, BC, another game that shouldn't be on the slate, but is. You got this BC 69-66. So you mentioned Javon Franklin just putting 40 burgers on the board every game. Davon Smith is out or is questionable. If he's out, I think that helps kind of solidify Franklin's shot rate at least. He just triple-doubled against the Syracuse zone. The ascension of Franklin's been wild, right? From a guy that, when he was in the low 6Ks, we're like, hey, is this real? And, we kind of played him. And I feel like every time we play him, he just quietly smashes. But now he's up to 8.5 on the road with a 60-16 total. I think what you do with him is kind of a key point to the slate. He projects well. I'm a little bit worried about the team total and like BC just drags you in the mud. What do you think about him? And then Post on the other side, I think, is also in a good spot against the zone.
Yeah, it's like, if I haven't really played Javon Franklin up until this point, and now he's at, a season high price on the road in a game I've already bet under like 137.5. The GT offense has just been absolutely sun running, dude. 1.35 points per possession against Syracuse last game, 122 against Louisville, 111 versus Pitt, 107 versus Va Tech. They're 206 adjusted offensive efficiency on a season long basis. They're 61st best in the country in the last 5 games. I think that peters out a lot this game against a really physical Boston College team. So, yeah, I don't love the spot for Franklin, and probably won't play him, which means he's inbound for another triple double. He might even do it. He might even get a quadruple double with blocks if I'm not going to play him. So, yeah, it's like I'd be wary to play anybody in this game. But we did get DeMar Langford out news, so maybe that frees up some of the guards on the BC side.
Yeah, I was just pulling up because DeMar missed a couple games previously. Yeah, he missed 5 games in like late January through early February. What we really saw is, it wasn't so much Bickerstaff. I think they were playing more of like Chaz Kelly and Mason Madsen. So I think just kind of like a volatile spot for those bench guys for BC. I will say Chaz Kelly's down to 3-1. Could be interesting, like if you're down early. I think Post had the illness on Tuesday, and that's what just threw me through a loop. I ended up playing Devin McLaughlin. Not a sound decision there, but Post should be good here. The games that he hasn't fouled, he's seen like 32 plus minutes. I think he's a good play at 8-2. How do you think he fits against the zone, Gav?
Yeah, he's like a stretch big, but Georgia Tech is kind of a weird quasi matchup zone that extends out to the 3-point line pretty well, but you can just hammer him underneath. So it's like you might not have the 3-point upside that he's had in other games, but like I think his rebounding equity is way higher in this spot than it has been against like a super compact Wake Forest team or the Virginia Pack line. Similar to what it looks like against Florida State when he had, I still think his rebounds are lagging. So I think it is an interesting spot for Post. I don't think many people will play him. He'll be 12 to 15% owned maybe. I think it's a pretty decent spot, although the game environment's kind of shit in all honesty.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Last game, TCU at Oklahoma. TCU 21st, Oklahoma 55th at Ken Palm. He's got this TCU 72-71. I saw TCU -2 before we started up here, Gav. Overall game thoughts, we've seen TCU play really well down the stretch. They dropped that home game to Kansas, but then bounced back, win at Texas Tech, and then beat Texas after, man, they almost blew another 15-plus point lead against Texas. They did blow the cover, though, which, not surprising. Oklahoma kind of scuffling down the stretch. What do you think here? I mean, if I bet a side, it would probably be TCU. I just, the short road favorite at OU just doesn't seem like a great overall spot.
Yeah, the OU home court doesn't really scare me. Like this was a TCU 25-point shit kicking without Lampton the first time in Fort Worth. So, like you said, 2 straight wins, but TCU's offense matches up really well against Oklahoma's defense. Like Moser runs such a weird defense compared to everybody else's no middle. He runs like a no 3 drop switch, like at the line of the screen. So it's like you can hit guys on the short roll. And if you have a point guard with like really good burst, like Miles, you can definitely get through the defense. We saw Noel, have really good success with it. But yeah, like Oklahoma is also sped up too. when this first matchup happened, they were top 20 defense in terms of denying transition frequency in the country. Now they're like 141st. So part of it's, a couple teams are fast in the Big 12. I think part of it is Oklahoma just realizes they're so fucking anemic in the half court. They have to run a little bit, and TCU will push them.
Yeah, I think there's some interesting spots here. Mike Miles' price continues to tick down as he's just not been the same since coming back. I'm not sure if it's because he's not ready or if, this is going to be the norm moving forward. It's kind of tough to click him on the road at Oklahoma when you just don't know if this is just like his new role, because Miller, Ball have just been playing out of their minds, even with Mike Miles back. I think it might just be like a three-headed monster, which is really good for them as a team. And like going into the tournament, having three guys that you can rely on to have a ceiling game at any point is great for them. But for us, it kind of makes them tough to decide which one's going to go off, I think is kind of where I'm at with TCU DFS wise right now. Thoughts on that? And then anyone else in play for you? We see Oweh under 4K after a couple of foul games. Sherfield at 7-4. TCU just shut them down when they played last time.
Yeah, it's tough matchup for Sherfield. If I'm going to play a TCU guy, especially with Lampkin back, oh my God, I don't even know. They should have some pretty good success on the inside. I just don't know who's going to get the minutes and the production between Lampkin, Cork, and Coles. Cole's at 5'9". With Lampkin back, I'm out. I didn't play him last slate. As soon as Lampkin was ruled in, I couldn't do it. But yeah, I think the first place you look is Oweh, right? I think he's in the pool of those 3 to 4K budget guys. He had the big nuke game last time against K-State. Him and Uzin both crushed last game. So he's still 3.7 at home, getting the pace up. I think it's still a pretty good spot, even with Bijan Cortez somehow returning to the team.
Yeah, that was kind of unexpected news that we got the other night. We're like, oh,
he pulled the Wahab. I quit.
Didn't he start too?
I'm back. Yeah, I think he started.
Yeah, wild. All right, well, that's a slate. We went a little long, but there's no other show up our ass, so that's fine. And we had 12 games to talk about. So we're in March. Any last words on the slate, Gav? I don't really think we have time to do our usual wrap up, but just like overall themes of the slate for you.
Stars and scrubs.
Yeah, I think
that's all you need to know.
Yeah, this
is not the day for balanced builds.
Yeah, there's a time and place for balanced builds when the slate kind of dictates it, and we've had a good amount of them lately, actually, Gavin. But I think this is definitely stars and scrubs. We've got reliable values, and there's a lot of them. So there's places to get different there, and there's just so many good plays above 8K on this slate. And I think the 5K to 7K is fairly weak. So I will be following you with that. I'm not sure, who my favorites are yet. We still got 45 minutes to lock. We got news streaming in.
Kadari's out.
Yep, we just got news that Kadari's out. So Jameer Harris in that mix of value guards for this slate. But yeah, let's hop off and get to building lineups. For all the members I'll see in Discord, I'll be posting lineups as usual. Thoughts on news, core for the afternoon and the night slates. I'm not sure if you've peeked at the afternoon slate yet, Gavin, but it's a pretty good one. So let's get out of here. Thanks for hanging out, everyone. We will not see you next Saturday, but we will be active in putting our bets on Twitter and, thoughts on games and stuff. And I'm sure there'll be some drunk tweeting going on from Vegas next weekend. So for Gav, I have Steve Boynton. I run Pure.